Ambassador Kyungmin adjusted his simple gray suit as he walked through the massive corridors of the Federation Council building on Nexus Prime. The walls stretched high above him, decorated with symbols from 100 different worlds. Alien. Delegates moved past him in small groups, their voices echoing in languages he had learned to understand over the past 20 years. None of them paid much attention to the human representative. They never did. The Federation Council chamber could hold representatives from 3,000 worlds, but today, only the major powers were present. Kyungmin took his assigned seat in the outer ring, far from the central platform where the real decisions were made. His chair was smaller than most, designed for the average human frame that the other species considered rather unremarkable. General Thex Var of the Vorthak Empire stood at the central podium, his massive frame covered in the traditional black armor of his people. The Vorthak were born warriors, standing 3 meters tall with thick gray skin that could stop most projectile weapons. Their empire controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy through pure military might. The Outer Rim territories remain largely unexplored and undefended, General Thex Var announced, his voice booming through the chamber. The Vorthak Empire proposes immediate expansion into these sectors to bring order and civilization to the scattered colonies there. Tekarch Velnara of the Nexari Collective nodded her agreement from her floating platform. The Nexari had evolved beyond physical bodies centuries ago, existing as pure energy contained within crystalline shells. Their technology was the most advanced in the galaxy, though they rarely shared it with other species. The collective supports this expansion, Velnara said, her voice creating harmonics that hurt human ears. These primitive settlements require proper governance and technological advancement. Kyungmin knew exactly which settlements they meant. 17 human colonies existed in those Outer Rim territories, home to nearly 50 million people. The colonies were officially registered as agricultural and mining operations, small peaceful communities that traded food and raw materials with the inner worlds. The Earth Republic requests permission to speak, Kyungmin said, standing slowly. General. Thex Var looked annoyed. The humans may speak, though their opinion carries little weight in military matters. The proposed expansion would affect several human settlements, Kyungmin said carefully. These are peaceful farming communities with no military capabilities. We request that any expansion respect existing territorial claims and the safety of civilian populations. Several alien delegates made sounds that might have been laughter. The Vorthak had never encountered serious resistance from humans. In 50 years of contact, Earth had never deployed military forces beyond their own solar system. Human ships were lightly armed merchant vessels and scientific exploration craft. Human concerns are noted, General Thex Var said dismissively. However, the galaxy requires strong leadership. Weak species must accept the protection of stronger ones. Kyungmin bowed slightly and sat down. He had said exactly what was expected of him, the role of the concerned but powerless representative of a minor species. He touched his wrist communicator briefly, sending a coded message to Earth. 3 light-years away, Captain Da-eun received the signal aboard her ship, the Harmony. To any observer, the Harmony looked like a typical human merchant vessel. Its hull was painted white with blue Earth Republic markings. The ship was only 200 meters long, much smaller than most military vessels in the galaxy. Captain, we just received a priority message from Ambassador Kyungmin, reported her communications officer Woo Jin. He was young for his position, barely 25, with the quick reflexes that made him excellent at his job. Put it on the main screen, Da-eun said. The message appeared as simple trade data, discussing agricultural shipments and mining quotas. But Da-eun had been reading coded messages for 15 years. The real meaning was clear. Phase 1 protocols were now active. Begin withdrawal of civilian assets. Hey 1, plot a course for the Kepler 442 system, Da-eun ordered her chief engineer. Maximum speed. That will take us into empty space, Captain, Haewon replied. She was older than the rest of the crew, with graying hair and the steady hands of someone who had worked with starship engines for decades. "There is nothing in that system except dead rocks and asteroid fields." "I know," Da-Yun said. "Trust me." The Harmony turned away from its patrol route and jumped to faster-than-light travel. Within hours, they emerged in the Kepler 442 system, which had been marked as uninhabitable for centuries. The star was dying, and its planets were frozen wastelands. "Begin scanning the outer asteroid belt," Da-Un ordered. "Look for anything that does not belong there." Wu Jin worked at his console, sending out sensor sweeps that would detect any large metallic objects hidden among the space rocks. For 2 hours, they found nothing but ice and stone. Then his equipment picked up something massive. "Captain, I am reading a structure approximately 8 kilometers long hidden inside asteroid cluster 779, Wu Jin reported. "The metal composition matches no known materials in our database." "Take us closer," Da-Un said. "Full stealth mode." The Harmony activated systems that most alien species believed were impossible. The ship seemed to fade from existence, invisible to almost any sensor technology. They moved carefully through the asteroid field until they could see their target with optical cameras. What they found defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. Hidden among the asteroids was a massive structure that looked like it had been built from pieces of a dozen different starships. But these were not ships from any species in the Federation. The hull design was clearly human, but the technology visible on its surface was far beyond anything Earth was supposed to possess. "That is the sleeping giant," Da-Un said quietly. "She has been waiting here for 30 years. "Waiting for what?" Heiwan asked. "For today," Da-Un replied. She activated her personal communication device. "This is Captain Da-Un to Fleet Command. The Ancient One is ready for awakening." The response came immediately from Admiral Sang-Ho himself. His voice transmitted across impossible distances by technology the Federation thought was purely theoretical. "Acknowledged, Captain. Report to Station Echo for reassignment. Your new command is waiting." "New command?" Wu Jin asked. Da-Un smiled for the first time in months. "The Harmony was just our cover story. Our real ship is much more interesting." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Sang-Ho stood in a command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean. The room was filled with displays showing the positions of human ships and installations throughout the galaxy. Most of the Federation had no idea these installations even existed. "All station commanders, this is Fleet Command," Sang-Ho spoke into his headset. "Phase 1 is now active. Begin civilian evacuation from all Outer Rim colonies. Military assets are to maintain stealth protocols until further orders." Across human space, the message was received by commanders who had spent decades preparing for this moment. On farming worlds and mining stations, civilian populations began boarding transport ships for evacuation to safer systems. But they left behind much more than empty buildings. As the transports departed, defensive systems that had been hidden for generations began powering up. Agricultural domes retracted to reveal weapon installations. Mining equipment was moved aside to expose missile silos. What had appeared to be simple frontier settlements transformed into military fortresses. On New Sol, Governor Subin watched the last civilian transport disappear into hyperspace. Her world looked empty now, but she knew better. Beneath the surface, 30,000 military personnel waited in hardened bunkers. The orbital platforms that looked like communication satellites were actually armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Governor, we are receiving movement reports from Vorthak forces," her military advisor reported. "General Thex Var is assembling a fleet in the Arcturus sector." "Let them come," Subin said calmly. "They will find New Sol much more interesting than they expect." Back on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Kyung-min finished his daily reports and returned to his quarters in the diplomatic sector. His rooms were simple and modest, as befitted the representative of a minor species. But hidden behind false walls were communication systems that connected him directly to human military command. "Admiral, this is Ambassador Kyung-min reporting," he said into his secure transmitter. "The Vorthak are moving faster than anticipated. General Thexvar believes he can complete the Outer Rim expansion in less than a month." "Understood," Admiral Sang-ho replied. "How long before they reach the first human colony?" "Based on their fleet composition and movement patterns, no more than 72 hours. "Perfect. That gives us time to ensure all our pieces are in position." Kyung-min ended the transmission and prepared for bed. Tomorrow, he would return to the Federation Council and continue playing his role as the concerned representative of a peaceful species. He would file protests and ask for protection that he knew would not come. The other species would see exactly what they expected to see: a weak human pleading for mercy from stronger powers. They had no idea that humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this war. General Thexvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, watching his fleet prepare for the assault on New Sol. 237 Vorthak warships filled the space around him, their black hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a small moon. "General, our scouts report that the human settlement shows minimal defensive activity," his tactical officer reported. "We detect only basic orbital platforms and a few civilian craft." Thexvar grunted with satisfaction. "As expected. These humans have never shown any real military capability. This will be over within hours." The Vorthak Empire had conquered 43 worlds in the past century. Their strategy was always the same: overwhelming force applied quickly and brutally. Civilian populations usually surrendered rather than face complete destruction. Those who resisted were eliminated as examples to others. "Begin the attack," Thexvar ordered. "Target their orbital platforms first, then move to planetary bombardment positions." The Vorthak fleet accelerated toward New Sol, their massive engines creating wakes of distorted space-time. Long-range sensors showed them exactly what they expected: a peaceful agricultural world with a few basic defenses. The planet's surface was covered with farming domes and small settlements connected by simple transportation networks. Governor Subin sat in her command center beneath the capital, city of Neo Busan, watching the approaching fleet on her tactical displays. Around her, military officers worked at stations that controlled defensive systems the Vorthak could not even imagine. "All civilian evacuations are complete," her aide reported. "Population is now 0 on the surface level." "Excellent," Subin replied. "Signal all defense stations to prepare for engagement. Activate stealth protocols for orbital platforms." Above the planet, structures that had appeared to be simple communication satellites began changing. Their outer shells fell away, to reveal weapon systems that had been hidden for decades. The orbital platforms were not just armed. They were equipped with technology that the Federation believed was impossible. "Governor, the Vorthak fleet is entering our outer defense perimeter," the tactical officer announced. "Let them come closer," Subin said calmly. "We want them to commit fully to the attack." Light years away, Captain Da Yun was completing her transfer to her new command. The ship she had called the Harmony was gone, replaced by something that defied every assumption the galaxy had made about human capabilities. The Rising Phoenix was 600 meters long and built with technology that combined the best innovations from a dozen different species. Its hull was composed of adaptive materials that could repair damage automatically. Its weapons systems used principles that most alien scientists considered theoretical. "Welcome aboard, Captain," Wu Jin said as he took his position at the tactical station. The bridge was larger than anything on their previous ship, with displays showing information in ways that seemed almost magical. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Dawun replied. "Hey, One, what is our power status?" "All systems are operating at peak efficiency," the engineer reported from her new station. The quantum reactor is stable, and we have enough power to operate for 6 months without refueling. Excellent. Set course for New Sol, maximum speed. The rising phoenix disappeared from normal space and traveled through dimensions that most species did not know existed. They would reach the battle zone in less than an hour. Back at New Sol, the Vorthak fleet was moving into attack formation. General Thexvar studied the tactical display showing the human defenses. They looked pathetic compared to his massive fleet. "Begin bombardment of the orbital platforms," he ordered. Vorthak warships opened fire with plasma cannons that could melt through starship armor. The energy beams struck the human platforms and seemed to have no effect whatsoever. The platforms absorbed the incoming fire and continued operating normally. "Sir, our weapons are not penetrating their defensive screens," the weapons officer reported with confusion in his voice. "Impossible," Thexvar growled. "Double the firing rate." The Vorthak ships increased their attack, pouring more energy into their target. The human platforms simply absorbed everything they could throw at them. Then, without warning, they began firing back. The first orbital platform fired a single beam of pure white energy that struck a Vorthak cruiser amidships. The beam cut through the ship's armor like it was made of paper. The cruiser exploded in, a ball of superheated gas that lit up the darkness of space. "What was that?" Thexvar demanded. "Unknown weapon type, General," his science officer replied. "The energy signature does not match anything in our database." More platforms began firing. Each shot destroyed a Vorthak ship completely. The weapons were so precise that they could target specific systems or slice ships in half. In less than 10 minutes, the Vorthak had lost 30 vessels. "Sir, I am detecting new contacts emerging from the asteroid belt," the sensor operator announced. General Thexvar looked at his display and felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. Ships were appearing from what he had thought was empty space. Human ships, but unlike anything they had encountered before. The rising phoenix led a squadron of 12 vessels toward the Vorthak fleet. They moved with impossible speed and agility, changing direction in ways that should have torn them apart from the gravitational forces involved. "All ships, this is Captain Da-Un," she broadcast on an open frequency that the Vorthak could intercept. "You are trespassing in human territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Thexvar laughed despite his growing concern. Dozen ships against our entire fleet? These humans have lost their minds." "General, I recommend we accept their terms," his tactical officer said quietly. "Our losses are already significant." "Never!" Thexvar roared. "We are the Vorthak Empire. We do not retreat from inferior species." He ordered his entire fleet to concentrate fire on the human squadron. 200 ships turned their weapons toward Da-Un's forces and unleashed everything they had. The human ships simply vanished. "Where did they go?" Thexvar demanded. "Unknown, sir. They disappeared from all sensors." The answer came when the human ships reappeared inside the Vorthak formation. They had somehow moved through space without traveling the distance between, appearing exactly where they needed to be to cause maximum damage. Da-Un's ship fired weapons that seemed to bend space itself. Energy beams curved around obstacles to strike targets that should have been protected. Missiles appeared out of nowhere and struck ships from directions that sensors indicated were empty. "Return fire!" Thexvar ordered, but his ships could not target enemies that refused to stay in one place for more than a few seconds. The human ships moved through the Vorthak formation like dancers, destroying everything they touched, their weapons cut through. The Empire's best armor as if it did not exist. Worse, they seemed to know exactly where to hit each ship to cause catastrophic damage. "Sir, we have lost 70 ships," the tactical officer reported. "Our formation is breaking apart." On the planet's surface, defensive installations that had been disguised as agricultural equipment began revealing their true nature. Farming, domes retracted to expose massive railgun installations. Irrigation systems transformed into missile launch sites. What had appeared to be a peaceful farming world was actually a fortress that could defend itself against entire fleets. The planetary, Weapons joined the orbital platforms in systematic destruction of the Vorthak fleet. Energy beams struck with mathematical precision, each shot destroying or disabling a target. Missiles launched from the surface moved faster than anything the Vorthak had seen, their guidance systems so advanced that they could change targets mid-flight. "General, we must withdraw," his second-in-command urged. "We are being slaughtered." Thexvar watched another dozen ships die in as many seconds. His mighty fleet was being torn apart by an enemy he had thought was harmless. The humans were not just defending themselves, they were demonstrating military technology that surpassed anything in the galaxy. "All ships, retreat to safe distance," he finally ordered. The surviving Vorthak ships turned away from New Sol and accelerated toward the edge of the system. As they fled, they witnessed something that would haunt their military intelligence for years to come. Massive shapes began emerging from the darkness between stars. Ships so large they dwarfed Vorthak dreadnoughts appeared from what had seemed like empty space. These vessels had been waiting in the void, invisible to all sensors, ready to intervene if the smaller human forces needed assistance. The largest ship was over 3 kilometers long, its hull covered with weapon systems that could probably destroy entire worlds. It moved with the slow majesty of something that knew it was the most powerful force in the region. "My God," the Vorthak sensor operator whispered. "How many ships do they have?" General Thexvar had no answer. His fleet had been reduced from 237 ships to less than 90 in under an hour. The humans had lost nothing. Not a single human ship had been destroyed or even seriously damaged. As the Vorthak fleet limped away from New Sol, Governor Subin opened a communication channel that reached across the galaxy. "This is Governor Subin of New Sol to all Federation forces," she announced. "New Sol remains under human protection. Any further aggression will be met with appropriate..." The emergency session of the Federation Council was unlike anything in galactic history. Representatives from every major power had gathered on Nexus Prime within 48 hours of the New Sol incident. The chamber buzzed with excited conversations. In 100 different languages, as species that rarely spoke to each other, shared intelligence reports and tactical analyses. Techarch Velnara of the Nexari Collective floated near the center platform, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated energy patterns. The Nexari prided themselves on having the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but what they had witnessed at New Sol challenged everything they thought they knew about the limits of science. The human defensive systems demonstrate impossible energy efficiency ratios, she announced to the assembled delegates. Their weapons appear to violate several fundamental laws of physics. This technology should not exist. General Thexvar stood at his designated position, his massive frame showing visible damage from the battle. Medical patches covered wounds where shrapnel had penetrated even his thick hide. His proud military bearing was gone, replaced by the haunted look of a commander who had watched his fleet die. "The humans were prepared for our attack," he reported grimly. "This was not a lucky defense. They knew exactly how to counter our weapons and tactics. They have been studying us for decades." Ambassador Kyung-min sat quietly in his usual seat in the outer ring, maintaining the same modest demeanor he had displayed for 20 years. But now every eye in the chamber was focused on the human representative. The species they had dismissed as harmless merchants had just destroyed the most powerful fleet in Vorthak history. "Ambassador Kyung-min," the council speaker announced, "the Federation demands an immediate explanation for the events at New Sol." Kyung-min stood slowly, smoothing his simple gray suit. "The Earth Republic has always maintained defensive capabilities to protect our civilian populations. When threatened with unprovoked aggression, we defended ourselves using available resources." "Available resources?" Velnara's voice created discordant harmonics that hurt everyone's ears. "Your orbital platforms absorbed direct hits from plasma, cannons that could melt asteroids. Your ships moved through space-time in ways that our best scientists consider impossible. The Nexari Collective has always been secretive about their own technological capabilities, Kyung-min replied calmly. Perhaps other species have also developed innovations they prefer to keep private. The response sent waves of unease through the chamber. If humanity had been hiding technology this advanced, what else might they be concealing? 3 days later, Techarch Velnara made the decision that would change everything. She dispatched a reconnaissance fleet of 50 ships to probe other human systems. Convinced that New Sol had been an isolated defensive position, the humans could not possibly have fortified every world to the same degree. The Nexari fleet chose New Busan as their target, a trade hub that handled commercial traffic from dozens of systems. Intelligence reports described it as a typical human settlement, lightly defended, focused on commerce, with a population more interested in profit than warfare. Admiral Da-un, now commanding a task force from the bridge of her new flagship, the Terra's Shield, watched the Nexari approach on her long-range sensors. She had been promoted after the New Sol victory and given command of humanity's rapid response forces. Admiral, the Nexari fleet is establishing a blockade around New Busan, Lieutenant Wu Jin reported from his tactical station. They are demanding inspection rights for all human vessels. How quaint, Da-un replied. They still think they are dealing with merchant ships. Chief Engineer Hei Wan looked up from her console. Admiral, all ships in the task force are reporting ready status. Stealth systems are online and quantum drives are charged. Da-un smiled. Signal the fleet. Operation Enlightenment is authorized. Fa-ti. Human task force consisted of 36 vessels, outnumbered by the Nexari, but equipped with technology that the collective scientists would have called impossible. These were not the converted merchant ships that the galaxy expected from humanity. They were purpose-built warships designed with one goal: total military supremacy. The Nexari blockade had been in position for 6 hours when the first human ship decloaked directly behind Velnara's flagship. The Seeker of Truth was a kilometer-long research vessel equipped with the most advanced sensors in the collective's fleet. Its shields could withstand the explosion of a small star. The human frigate Ghost of Tomorrow was only 200 meters long, but its appearance next to the massive Nexari ship sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet. The Ghost had materialized from what sensors indicated was empty space, moving without any detectable propulsion system. Nexari vessel, you are trespassing in human space, Captain Namsu announced from the Ghost's bridge. Withdraw immediately. Velnara responded with what she intended as a show of overwhelming technological superiority. The Seeker of Truth fired its main weapon, a particle beam that could cut through planetary crust. The beam struck the Ghost of Tomorrow directly. The human ship absorbed the entire attack without any visible damage. Its hull seemed to drink in the energy and convert it to something else entirely. Warning lights flashed across Nexari control panels as their targeting systems registered impossible readings. How is this possible? Velnara demanded of her science. Team. Unknown Techarch. The human vessel appears to be constructed from materials that do not exist in our periodic charts. The Ghost of Tomorrow fired a single response shot. The weapon was smaller than anything the Nexari had expected, just a brief pulse of silver light. It struck the Seeker of Truth's shields and passed through them as if they were not there. The pulse hit the Nexari ship's main reactor, and something extraordinary happened. Instead of exploding, the reactor simply stopped working. The massive vessel went dark as every system aboard shut down simultaneously. The crew was unharmed, but their ship was completely disabled. Seeker of Truth, report your status, Velnara called over the communication channel. All systems offline, Techarch. We are powerless and drifting. More human ships began appearing throughout the Nexari formation. They materialized from dimensions that collective science insisted were purely theoretical. Stealth frigates that could phase shift through solid matter appeared inside Nexari vessels, disabling them from within. Battle cruisers with adaptive armor that regenerated damage faster than weapons could inflict, it moved through enemy fire without concern. But the most terrifying sight was the carrier ships. These vessels deployed fighters that moved faster than light speed, appearing and disappearing in microsecond intervals to strike targets throughout the Nexari fleet. The fighters used weapons that seemed to edit reality itself, removing sections of enemy ships from existence rather than destroying them. "All ships, retreat to safe distance," Velnara ordered as her fleet began falling apart around her. "I am afraid that will not be possible," Admiral Da-Un announced as her flagship decloaked directly in front of the Nexari command vessel. The Terra's shield was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, adapting its shape for optimal combat efficiency. Weapon ports opened along its surface in patterns that changed continuously, giving it the ability to fire in any direction simultaneously. "Your ships are trapped within our interdiction field," Dalian explained calmly. "Your faster-than-light drives will not function until we allow them to." Velnara checked her instruments and confirmed the human's words. Some kind of spatial distortion was preventing any Nexari ship from entering hyperspace. They were completely at the mercy of the human fleet. "What do you want?" Velnara asked. "Nothing complicated," Da-Un replied. "Simply acknowledge that human space is under human control and withdraw your forces permanently." Major So Young, commander of human marine forces, led boarding parties onto the disabled Nexari vessels. Her troops wore powered armor that made them nearly unstoppable, each suit equipped with personal shields and weapons that could cut through starship hulls. The Nexari crew members found themselves facing soldiers who moved like machines but fought with human creativity and determination. The powered armor enhanced their natural abilities to superhuman levels while protecting them from any weapon the collective could deploy. "Your technology is impressive," So Young told the captured Nexari officers as her Marines secured their vessels. "But you made the same mistake everyone makes when dealing with humans." "What mistake?" a Nexari engineer asked. "You assumed we were limited by the same rules that govern your thinking." The boarding actions were swift and precise. Human. Marines disabled key systems while leaving life support intact. They took detailed scans of Nexari technology, adding the collective's innovations to humanity's growing database of alien science. Within 4 hours, the entire Nexari fleet was either disabled or under human control. Not a single human vessel had been damaged. The technology gap was so vast that it barely qualified as a battle. Admiral Da-Un opened a communication channel that broadcast throughout the galaxy. Her message was simple and direct. "This is Admiral Da-Un of the Human Defense Force. New. Busan remains under human protection. Any further interference with human commerce or territory will result in immediate military." The Federation Council chamber had never seen chaos like this before. Representatives from 300 different worlds filled every available space, their voices creating a storm of sound that the translation systems could barely handle. Emergency. Sessions had been called on dozens of homeworlds as governments tried to understand what humanity had become. Ambassador Kyung-min walked to the central platform with the same measured pace he had used for 20 years, but this time, every eye in the chamber followed his movement. The modest human diplomat was no longer seen as the harmless representative of a minor species. He was potentially the most dangerous individual in the galaxy. "Honored delegates," Kyung-min began, his voice cutting through the chaos with unexpected authority. "You have demanded explanations for recent events involving human defensive actions. The Earth Republic is prepared to provide those explanations." Techarch Velnara's crystalline form pulsed with agitated energy. "Your defensive actions have demonstrated technology that exceeds our most advanced theoretical models. The Nexari. Collective demands to know how you acquired these capabilities." General Thexvar, still bearing visible scars from the New Soul battle, stepped forward. The Vorthak Empire has fought wars across the galaxy for centuries. We have never encountered weapons like those used by human forces. This technology is beyond anything we understand. Kyung-min nodded slowly. You are correct, General. What you witnessed was indeed beyond your understanding, but it was not beyond ours. He activated a holographic projector that filled the chamber with images from 50 years ago. The display showed the first contact between humanity and the Galactic Federation, when primitive human ships had encountered alien vessels near the edge of the solar system. When humanity first learned of the Federation's existence, we discovered something troubling, Kyung-min continued. The galaxy was dominated by aggressive, expansionist species with little respect for weaker civilizations. Peace existed only when stronger powers found it convenient. The hologram showed images of Vorthak conquests, Nexari territorial expansions, and dozens of smaller species that had been absorbed or eliminated by their more powerful neighbors. The pattern was clear. Strength determined survival in galactic politics. Historian Young Sik appeared in the holographic display, his elderly face marked by decades of careful research. He had spent his entire career documenting humanity's real activities since joining the Federation. 50 years ago, Admiral Sang-ho proposed what we called the Long Peace Protocol, Young Sik explained from the recording. The plan was simple. Convince the galaxy that humanity was peaceful and harmless while secretly building the most powerful military force in galactic history. The display shifted to show classified footage of early human military planning sessions. Young Admiral Sang-ho, barely 40 years old, stood before a council of Earth's political and military leaders explaining his strategy. We cannot match the established powers in a direct confrontation, the young Sang-ho said in the recording. But we have advantages they lack: patience, creativity, and the ability to think beyond conventional limitations. Kyung-min paused the hologram and addressed the stunned chamber. The Long Peace Protocol required sacrificing humanity's natural aggressive instincts. We channeled our warrior culture into patient, methodical preparation instead of immediate conquest. Director Haya Jin of the Human Intelligence Division appeared in the next segment. Her presentation showed the scope of humanity's infiltration efforts throughout Federation space. Human merchants, engineers, and scientists working on alien worlds had all been gathering intelligence and building secret supply networks. Every human civilian working in Federation space has been part of our intelligence network, Hyejin explained. We have spent 5 decades studying your governments, your military capabilities, and your strategic weaknesses. We know more about your civilizations than you know about yourselves. The revelation sent shockwaves through the chamber. Delegates began frantically checking their personal security details, wondering how many of their trusted human advisors and technicians were actually military intelligence agents. Tech Arch Velnara's voice created painful harmonics as she spoke. This level of deception is unprecedented in galactic history. How many of our technological advances have you stolen? We prefer the term reverse-engineered, Kyung-min replied calmly. Human scientists have studied innovations from over 100 different species. We improved upon them using principles that your cultures never considered. The holographic display showed images of secret human research facilities hidden throughout the galaxy. These installations had been disguised as everything from asteroid mining operations to deep space communication relays. In reality, they were laboratories where human scientists combined alien technologies in ways their creators had never imagined. Admiral Da-Eun appeared in the recording, speaking from the bridge of a ship that clearly demonstrated humanity's technological achievements. The vessels you call ancient warships are not ancient at all, she explained. They are our newest creations, built with technology acquired from dozens of different species. We called them ancient as part of our psychological warfare strategy. The term had been carefully chosen to make enemies believe humans had access to lost technologies from some mysterious precursor civilization. The truth was far more disturbing. Humanity had surpassed every known species through systematic study and improvement of their innovations. Chief Engineer Nam Su provided technical details that made the alien delegates even more uncomfortable. Human shipyards have been operating in secret for 30 years, producing vessels that incorporate the best features of every known design philosophy. We did not just copy your technology, we perfected it. The display showed the Terra's wrath during its construction, revealing the massive scale of humanity's military preparations. The ship was clearly visible in Earth orbit, but it had been hidden from alien sensors through stealth technology that made it appear to be a simple space station. Major So Young appeared next, demonstrating the capabilities of human military forces. Our soldiers train with equipment acquired from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. We understand your tactics because we have studied every war you have fought for the past 50 years. The recording showed human Marines practicing with weapons and armor that combined innovations from dozens of different species. Their training scenarios included detailed simulations of fighting against every major military force in the galaxy. But the most important element of our preparation was not technological, Kyung-min said, returning to address the chamber directly. It was strategic patience. Fleet Admiral Sang-ho appeared in his current form, an elderly human who had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. Humanity understood that lasting victory required more than military superiority. We needed to position ourselves to win decisively when the time came to reveal our true capabilities. The holographic display showed the scope of humanity's hidden military infrastructure. Over 10,000 warships were distributed throughout the galaxy, hidden in locations that alien governments had never suspected. Entire planets had been converted into fortress worlds while maintaining the appearance of simple agricultural or industrial centers. Governor Subin provided details about the colonial deception. Every human settlement in Federation space has been a military installation disguised as a civilian operation. Our farmers are trained soldiers. Our miners are combat engineers. Our merchants are intelligence operatives. The revelation explained how humanity had been able to defend New Sol so effectively. The colony had not been hastily fortified. It had been built as a fortress from the beginning, with defensive systems hidden beneath agricultural installations. The ancient warships you fear are just the beginning, Admiral Sang-ho continued. Humanity has prepared for every possible scenario. We have contingency plans for war against every major power, individually or in combination. Director Hyejin reappeared to explain the intelligence aspects. We have infiltrated every government in the Federation. We know your military codes, your strategic plans, and your emergency protocols. When we decide to act, you will have no secrets from us. The chamber erupted in angry voices as delegates realized the scope of human espionage. Species that had considered their communications secure discovered that humanity had been reading their messages for decades. Kyung-min raised his hand for silence. The long peace protocol has served its purpose. Humanity is no longer content to hide our capabilities. We are prepared to take our rightful place as the dominant power in this galaxy. The holographic display showed images of human fleets emerging from hiding throughout Federation space. Ships that had been invisible to alien sensors revealed themselves in strategic positions around every major world. The galaxy was surrounded by human military forces that could strike anywhere within hours. You have a choice, Kyung-min announced to the stunned chamber. Accept the new reality and work with humanity to build a better galaxy, or resist and face the consequences of challenging a species that has spent 50 years preparing for war. Tech-Arch. Velnara's crystalline form dimmed as she processed the implications. How long have you been planning this revelation? The Galactic Federation building on Nexus Prime had become the center of the most important negotiations in galactic history. For 3 weeks, Representatives from every major power had struggled to understand the new reality that humanity had forced upon them. The species that had ruled the galaxy for centuries now faced a choice: accept human dominance or face complete military annihilation. Admiral Sang-Ho arrived at Nexus Prime aboard the Terra's Wrath, the massive human flagship that dwarfed every other vessel in orbit. His shuttle landed at the diplomatic complex, under escort from human fighters that moved through space in ways that still defied alien understanding. The elderly admiral walked through corridors that had once echoed with the confident voices of galactic rulers. Now those same aliens spoke in hushed tones, afraid that any aggressive word might trigger a response from the human military forces that surrounded their homeworlds. Admiral Sang-Ho, Ambassador Kyung-min greeted his commander in the diplomatic reception area. The Federation Council is ready to hear your terms. Have they accepted the reality of their situation? Sang-Ho asked. Some have. Others still believe they can negotiate from a position of strength. Sang-Ho smiled grimly. Then we will help them understand. The Federation Council chamber was filled to capacity, but the atmosphere was completely different from any previous gathering. Where once there had been confident displays of power and aggressive territorial demands, now there was only nervous tension and careful diplomacy. General Thex Var stood at his designated position, but his proud military bearing was gone. The Vorthak Empire's fleet had been reduced to less than half its original strength, and intelligence reports indicated that human forces could eliminate the remainder within hours if they chose to act. Tekarsh Velnara floated near the center platform, her crystalline form dim with what might have been fear. The Nexari Collective had always prided themselves on technological superiority, but humanity had proven that their greatest innovations were primitive compared to human capabilities. Admiral Sang-Ho walked to the central platform with the measured pace of someone who controlled the most powerful military force in galactic history. Every delegate in the chamber knew that this elderly human could order the destruction of their civilizations with a simple command. Honored delegates, Sang-Ho began, his voice carrying the authority of ultimate power. The era of federation. Rule has ended. Humanity now offers you the opportunity to participate in a new galactic order based on peace through strength. He activated a holographic display that showed the current positions of human military forces throughout the galaxy. The images were stunning and terrifying. Human fleets surrounded every major world, while hidden installations had been revealed on hundreds of strategic locations. The Vorthak Empire will immediately cease all military expansion and dismantle their slave-taking operations, Sang-Ho announced. Your conquered worlds will be granted independence under human protection. General Thex Var's massive frame trembled, with barely controlled rage. The Vorthak Empire has never submitted to foreign domination. We will not begin now. That is your choice, Sang-Ho replied calmly. But you should understand the consequences. The holographic display shifted to show the Vorthak homeworld of HFY. The planet was surrounded by what appeared to be a thin ring of metallic debris. Upon closer examination, the delegates realized they were looking at thousands of human vessels in perfect formation. Admiral Da-Yun currently commands our first fleet in orbit around your homeworld, Sang-Ho explained. She has orders to begin planetary bombardment if the Vorthak government refuses to comply with our terms. Admiral Da-Yun's voice came through the communications system from her flagship high above HFY. General Thex Var, this is Admiral Da-Yun. My weapons are targeted at your military installations and government facilities. You have 1 hour to announce your acceptance of human terms. The threat was not empty. Human weapons technology had been demonstrated to be capable of precision strikes that could eliminate specific targets without damaging surrounding areas. They could remove the Vorthak government while leaving the civilian population unharmed. General Thex Var looked around the chamber, seeking support from other delegates. None met his eyes. Every species present understood that resistance meant destruction. The Vorthak Empire accepts human terms, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Sang-Ho nodded and turned his attention to the Nexari representative. The Nexari Collective will share their advanced technologies freely, rather than hoarding them for competitive advantage. Your scientific innovations will benefit all species under human protection. Tech-Arch Velnara's form pulsed with agitated energy patterns. The collective has spent millennia developing our technological advantages. We cannot simply give them away. You are not giving them away, Sang-Ho corrected. You are contributing them to the greater good of galactic civilization. In return, you will receive protection and access to human innovations that exceed your current capabilities. Chief Engineer Namsu appeared in the holographic display, speaking from a research facility that had been hidden in the Nexari home system for years. We have already begun integrating Nexari energy manipulation techniques with human quantum mechanics. The results surpass anything either species could achieve alone. The demonstration that followed left the alien delegates speechless. Namsu showed them technology that combined human creativity with Nexari precision, creating innovations that neither species had imagined possible. The message was clear. Cooperation with humanity offered benefits that resistance could never provide. What of the smaller species? Asked the representative from the Kalari Union, a confederation of peaceful worlds that had always struggled to maintain independence. All species that accept human leadership will prosper, Sang-Ho replied. The new galactic order will protect the weak from the strong and ensure that technology serves all civilizations equally. Major So Young appeared in the holographic display, standing before a formation of human marines on the recently liberated world of SciFiPrime. The planet had been under Vorthak occupation for 30 years, its population enslaved to work in mining operations. Human forces have liberated 17 enslaved worlds in the past week, So Young reported. Local populations are being provided with medical care, food distribution, and protection from retaliation. The images showed human soldiers distributing supplies to grateful alien civilians, their powered armor modified to appear less threatening. Children from a dozen different species played around human marines who had removed their helmets to seem more approachable. Governor Su Bin appeared next, speaking from New Seoul, which had become a symbol of human military power. Former Federation. Worlds are welcome to establish embassies on New Seoul to discuss trade agreements and mutual cooperation under the new system. The offer was carefully crafted to sound voluntary while making clear that participation was expected. Species that refused to engage with the new order would find themselves isolated and vulnerable. Ambassador Kyung-min stepped forward to address specific concerns. The Earth Republic understands that this transition represents a significant change for many civilizations. We are prepared to provide assistance and guidance to ensure a smooth integration into the new galactic community. The word integration carried weight that every delegate understood. Species could choose to cooperate willingly or be forced to comply through other means. Historian Young Sik appeared in the holographic display to provide historical context. Galactic history shows that lasting peace requires strong leadership and clear authority. The Federation model of competing powers has produced centuries of warfare and exploitation. His presentation showed the casualty figures from major galactic conflicts over the past 1,000 years. Billions of lives had been lost to territorial wars, resource conflicts, and ideological disputes between rival powers. The human hegemony offers an alternative, Young Sik continued. Peace through strength, prosperity through cooperation, and security through unified command. Director Hye Jin provided details about the new intelligence sharing protocols. Human intelligence networks will be used to prevent conflicts before they begin. Species that attempt to develop weapons of mass destruction or plan aggressive actions will be stopped before they can threaten galactic stability. The surveillance system was comprehensive and inescapable. Humanity had proven they could penetrate any security system and monitor any communication network. Resistance would be detected and eliminated before it could become dangerous. Admiral Sang Ho concluded his presentation with a final demonstration of human power. The holographic display showed the Terra's wrath firing a single weapon into empty space. The energy beam created a miniature sun that burned for several seconds before dissipating. This weapon could destroy any planet in the galaxy, Sang Ho explained matter-of-factly. We choose not to use it because we prefer construction to destruction. But the capability exists for those who refuse to accept peace. The delegates sat in stunned silence as they absorbed the implications. Humanity possessed the ability to eliminate entire civilizations, but they were offering partnership instead of conquest.